today. This is Retire Financially Fit with Phyllis. Today, we're going to talk about the pillars of retirement. You can picture pillars holding up structures like the Parthenon or the Capitol building or the U.S. Supreme Court. They're classic features of architecture. You knock one out and the whole structure is in danger of toppling, and the same can be true for retirement. That's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get into it, with everything that's been going on, we know a lot of you have questions about the market, how your money's doing. So today you're going to hear a lot about Phyllis's Retire Fit analysis, how that could help you get some answers. We'll probably answer some of your questions on the show today, but you can always reach out to 623-792-5496. Again, 623-792-5496, or you can check us out online at retirewithpsp.com. And Phyllis, so nice to sit down with you again today. I hope all is well with you.
It is. How about you, Jen?
I'm doing great. I am looking forward to our show today. Like I said, going to be talking about these pillars of retirement plans that kind of hold it up. Could you just identify what are the pieces, the things that you would consider to be the pillars that support our retirement?
So the four pillars are you've got to have your money protected. Mm-hmm. You've got to have some liquidity for those emergencies that you never know are going to happen, but they do. Life happens. Mm-hmm. Because of longevity, because of inflation that never sleeps, you've got to have growth potential. And I say it very often, but cash flow in retirement, income. Without cash flow, there is no retirement. Your income is your outcome.
Yeah.
So that's a very important piece.
So those are the things that we've got to have. And if you don't have them, like when I picture a building, Phyllis, it's really easy to visualize taking one of those pillars away. What could happen to that building? Tell me what happens if we take one of those pillars away with our retirement.
Yeah, they all build on each other. And
yeah.
If you take one of those away, your retirement can come tumbling down. It really can. Absolutely.
It's not what anybody wants. It's really not. And here's the other thing. When you talk about all of these different pieces, Phyllis, you talk about the protection and growth potential and income and liquidity. They're really diverse. They sound really different. How does one plan address all of these things?
So if you think of it like building a house,
mm-hmm.
Okay, so your foundation is where you have that's the strongest part of the house. That's where you have your solid income and your emergency money, maybe that liquidity money. And then when you think of the walls, they're not quite as permanent. You can knock down a wall. I made my husband knock down a wall a couple different times as we were building our first house. Right. So it can be done, right? But they got to be strong. And so your walls are going to have some more of the income in it, the flexible income that you might need to, for a period of time to like fund an education or to pay off a car loan, something like that. And then if you think about the roof, that's exposed to the elements, so it can be replaced over time, but that's your growth potential. That's the last money that you're going to use. Mm-hmm. So you have time to have it come back and forth. So that's kind of how we structure it. Foundation, very, very secure. It's going to maintain your lifestyle fundamentally. Your walls are they got to be strong and solid.
Right.
And there are some bearing walls. But there's a little bit of flexibility of movement there. And then your growth potential is the last money that you're going to touch, even if it, in the short term, even if it goes smashing down like the market does from time to time, you can rebuild it and have time to let it come back and recover.
So again, all of these basic pieces that we need to make sure the end goal is that we can get through retirement with still having some of our money intact. We don't want to run out, so we've got to make sure that we have all of these different pieces, and we've got to put it together in the right way. So let's take today's show, Phyllis. Let's put this together in the right way. Start where you start when it comes to building a plan and which of these pieces that you want to put in place first.
Okay, so first we have to have a blueprint, which is really your budget in retirement.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really important to have an understanding because everybody's retirement looks different. What is your retirement budget realistically going to look like? And you think you just sit down and you look at the bills that you had before and you cut out a lot of those because now you're not working. Well, throw that budget out because retirement, every day you've got more time on your hands and you're probably going to spend as much money as you were before. I've been doing this a long time, and I'm going to tell you that. So we need a blueprint, just like when we're building a house.
Right.
And we need to take some time. Again, I'll go back to my first house that I built with my husband. I was very young, so don't hold this against me. But I could not read a blueprint, and he was trying to get me to read this blueprint. And the reason that the walls went down is I said, yeah, I want big bedrooms. And when he put the bedrooms up and I could actually see it, wait a minute, those walls came crashing down because they weren't big enough. We had a different, so the thing is we want to get the blueprint right. We want to take time. We want to understand it so that we don't retire and find out that we don't have enough to enjoy or we're stressed or we should have worked longer. So that's a first place. And really what we're identifying is how much income are we going to need in retirement and when are we going to need that money? You know, generally people start out and we call those the go-go years. Mm-hmm. Those are the years that they're younger, they can be more active and they're going to go more. They're going to spend more. So we start structuring our income first and foremost around that. We build an income plan. Again, without cash flow in retirement, there's really not much retirement to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and let's talk a little bit real quickly about your Retire Fit analysis, Phyllis, how it brings all of these pieces together. And then I do want to keep working our way through this as we talk about the blueprint, we talk about how we're actually putting it together. Your Retire Fit analysis, it's kind of the blueprint of what we're doing here, right?
Yeah, that is our proprietary process that we take everybody through. Mm-hmm. And it starts with the blueprint or the discovery meeting, mm-hmm. where we really begin to dig into discover what it is you want your retirement to look like. And then we start taking a look once we've, done that through the budget and some conversations and we get to feel comfortable with each other. We start digging into, okay, this is how much we're going to spend. What do we have? What do we have for reliable source of income? What do we have for investments? Are they taxed? How are they taxed? And we pull all of that information out. And then generally, our next meeting is what we call our observation meeting or our Retire Fit report card, if you will, because in that meeting, after we've gathered all your information, we synthesize observations that say, okay, here's where you want to be in retirement. With what you have everywhere, every which way, your CDs, your stocks, your bonds, your Social Security, your pension, all of the stuff that you've accumulated. What's going on with that compared to where you want to be? Do you have an income gap? Are you taking Social Security at the right time, or should you do something different? Do you have too much risk, too little risk? Taxes. Do you have a tax strategy? You're going to get wiped out on taxes later on because you don't. So our observation meeting really digs into where you told us you want to be in the discovery meeting and with verified information or facts, where you are in relationship to that. And then if you're in good stead, it's very, very clear. You see that. We'll shake your hand. We'll give you more information than you probably had before. And you'll go on your merry old way and live a great life. If, however, you see some gaps, which most people do, whether it's you haven't planned for healthcare, you don't have a strong tax strategy, you don't have enough income, or you haven't thought about inflation, or you haven't prepared if something happens to you and your spouse has a reduction in income. If you haven't thought about that, if there are any issues, it'll be very clear to see that. And at that point in time, if we're a good fit and we decide, geez, we can do this together, we'll set up another meeting that's our strategy meeting, where we'll start taking a look at the issues that you're concerned about and how we can strategize to remove those issues, to make sure you insulate your situation and put you in better stead. And that's the meaning that we like to educate you to make well-informed decisions, that we start looking at the different ways you can solve for these issues, and we break it down to the tools that we can use and the pros and cons and strings attached of each tool. And then after that, we have our implementation meeting where we really decide, okay, how are we going to build your 4 pillars, your fiscal house? And we put together the plan, your Retire Fit plan. Now, to get started with this, you want to pick up the phone and call us at 623-792-5496. Again, 623-792-5496. 5496. And there is never an obligation. We don't know if there are any issues that you need our help with. We don't know if perhaps it's a good fit. You've got to be very comfortable. I'd like to believe everybody loves me and I love them, but we find that out through the course, our 4-step process. After the first 2, we'll know, are there issues to be solved, and do you want our help doing that? But it all starts with you've done some heavy lifting, you've saved at least $250,000 or more for retirement, and you pick up the phone and you call us at 623-792-5496 for the Retire Fit analysis.
That number one more time, 623-792-5496. This is Retire Financially Fit with Phillis. We're talking about the 4 pillars needed for a sturdy retirement. They are protection, growth potential, income, and liquidity. We're going to continue talking about how you put all of these things together. Once you figure out how to read that blueprint, how do you make it all happen? We'll talk about that on the other side of the break. Stay with us. This is Retire Financially Fit with Phillis. We'll be back.
Why choose PSP and Associates to handle your retirement? Because we provide objective advice and concierge service. Investments, insurance, retirement planning, all at one location. We also partner with qualified attorneys and CPAs to provide complete financial strategies for our clients. We use a variety of investment and insurance products to custom design retirement plans that can give clients a clear look at their future. And we help you stay on the path toward financial independence. If you don't want to do it yourself, you want to work with a team to create a financial strategy for your future, give us a call, 623-792-5496. That's 623-792-5496. Would you rather get retirement advice from some TV show host who doesn't know anything about you, or PSP and Associates? 623-792-5496. PSP is a registered investment advisory firm. Phillis Sachs Pilvinus is an investment advisor representative and insurance professional. Investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal.
Thanks for joining us today. This is Retire Financially Fit with Phillis. I am Jen Rezac, happy to be here with Phillis Sachs Pilvinus. She is founder and president of PSP and Associates and author of the book Creating Calm Amidst the Storm. RetireWithPSP.com is the website if you'd like to learn a little bit more. And Phillis, when I think about retirement and how we used to think of retirement, we used to think of it as the final stage of life, right? It was what you got to at the end. It's not the finish line anymore. It's really the beginning of another phase of life, and it lasts so long that it actually unfolds in stages, because we're talking about decades here. Is this a way, I mean, do you break it down for your clients like this, Phillis, when we're trying to define and understand and get our arms around just how long retirement could last?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about it. It could last 20 to 30 years and maybe even longer in some cases. It used to be someone retired, 62, 65, got the gold watch, turned on the TV, sat in the living room, and a few more years, and grandchildren on their lap. But today, there's dreams, there's hopes, there's second careers, there's used to be travel, right? And there will be again, and all kinds of. I see people retiring with a lot of energy and a lot of excitement. And yes, there are definitely, as we're planning, there are definitely stages. And the first is what we call the go-go years. That's at least, depending upon how young you are, your retirement and, what your health looks like, at least 10 to 15 years. And then the slow go years. And the go-go years are when you're doing all those big elaborate trips and you're spending more and you're going and you've got the maximum amount of energy. Okay. And then the slow go years is you've taken a lot of your trips. You're still taking them, you're still going, but you're not quite as active. You're not, golfing every day. Maybe you're golfing a few days a week, and that's a 10-year period of time. And then the no-go years. Those are the years where, okay, hopefully you've done it all. And now you're slowing down. Now you're kind of content to stay close to home and have people come visit you and still enjoy if you're healthy enough, but you've done most of your fun things.
Right. And it's funny though when you talk about the years where we are more active and then the kind of slowing down years and then the years where you don't really want to go anywhere. My husband is not anywhere near retirement age, but those don't want to go years, he's there. He doesn't want to go anywhere.
That's probably called working too much.
Yeah.
He's tired. Give him a little time off and he'll pick up.
Maybe. Well, but when we talk a little bit about those years where we're doing this stuff, we are checking off the bucket list items and all those things we've been daydreaming about all of these years. How important is it to know what you want to do in those years before you retire? Because I'm guessing that has something to do with how much you're going to need and what that lifestyle is going to cost. I mean, that's why we have to figure that out ahead of time, right?
Absolutely. And that's where we really get into discussions of, what do you want to do in retirement? What are your hobbies? What are they going to cost? How often are you going to golf? How often are you going to see the grandkids? Are you going to help with college, weddings? When you travel, how are you going to travel? Are you going to travel, in an RV, or are you going to stay in 5-star, 4-star hotels? Are you going to travel first class? It really impacts what that looks like, to your budget. So we got to be realistic, because it'd be very disappointing if you retire and you don't have a plan for that, and then you find out shortly thereafter that you don't have enough money, or you just spend frivolously, and later on there's still time but no money. So really important to discussion. And it's not enough to just say, I'm going to travel. It's really defining what that looks like to get that budget right, so that you can really enjoy your retirement. I tell people I'd like to build boring retirement plans so that you can have an exciting retirement. Okay. And make sure that we have that money right. And the go-go years, typically people want to spend a lot more in those go-go years. Slow go years, inflation's going to erode your money, so maybe you'll be spending the same, but not in those dollars compared to before. Slow go years, you'll spend a little bit less. And the no-go years, you could spend equally as much as you did in the early years if you haven't planned for healthcare. Right. Because that's typically when it kicks in. So really important that we understand. And I will caution people. People often come to me with two schools of thought. Either they believe that they're going to spend a lot less in retirement than they spent while they were busy working, because now they won't have that gas to go to work, and they won't need the wardrobe, and they won't be tired at night and not prepare meals. Well, for most people, that's not true, because now you got a lot of time on your hands. And what are you going to do? You're going to spend money, more than likely, filling that time. Or there are people who think that they can spend a lot more than they actually can to make sure that they have enough money to last 20 to 30 plus years in retirement. So you really got to have a realistic eye on the budget. That's part of our Retire Fit analysis. It's part art and it's part science, but it's very, very, very important to get it right on the front end, and then build a retirement plan that's realistic around that budget.
Talking today with Phillis Saxpil-Venus. She is founder and president of PSP and Associates, and to go through this process to help get a handle on what's going on with your budget, what you need to be doing to make sure that you've got enough to get you through those go-go years, the slow-go years, all the way to the end of your retirement. That's what the Retire Fit analysis is all about, and you can get started on that today at 623-792-5496. That is the number to call to get started on your Retire Fit analysis with Phillis Saxpil-Venus and the team at PSP and Associates. That's 623-792-5496. Phillis, when I think about the go-go years where we're doing all the things that we want, and I think about my own personal situation right now when I go from Friday to Saturday, and Friday I've got to do things for work, I've got things to do for the kids and helping them with their school stuff and all those things, but then Saturday, I can kind of do what I want on Saturday. I still have some obligations. I still have some things to do, but that day, weekends are a lot more for me. I kind of experience that transition every week, but it's a big transition to go from working every day and only getting to do what you want on the weekends versus doing what you want every single day. How do you help people transition that way and to understand the cost that comes with that?
Yeah, that's where it takes some delving and painting the picture and spending some time getting to know people, knowing what their lifestyle has been thus far, and really talking through that whole process. Because without it, number one, forget the money side of things. If you're not prepared for every day having all this time on your hands and you don't know what you're going to do with it, I've seen this happen. People are very unhappy initially retired.
Yeah, wow.
Or if you want to spend all this money and you don't have enough money to spend, all of a sudden you realize that they're not happy campers then. So again, that is a very important part of the process. And it's not as intuitive as you think because, again, we're so caught up in our lives as we're working and we're going through the day-to-day and, so forth and so on. And you've got your routine that maybe we don't just stop and really think out the logistics of what it looks like when every single day is Saturday. So that's something, this is not my first rodeo. This is what we do all day, every day. We help people just like you get to and through retirement successfully. So we spend some time getting to know people, helping them understand what it's going to look like, and then helping them figure out what that's actually going to cost. And of course, a lot of people oftentimes don't take into account things like inflation. Inflation never sleeps. We help them with that. And taxes. So many times people think, well, I've got $500,000 or I've got $1 million in my retirement account. I'm sorry to tell you, but you don't. You've got a silent partner. His name is Uncle Sam. And he's silent because he doesn't tell you necessarily how much of a partnership he actually has until you start pulling the money out. I will tell you this, right now they're on sale. Taxes are on sale. Couldn't help that. Okay. So in planning for retirement, these are all very important components to know on the front end so that you can live the retirement that you've dreamed about independently and on your own terms. Make sure it's realistic. Our Retire Fit analysis goes through from soup to nuts, an understanding of what you want your retirement to look like, what it's going to cost in your pocket after taxes, with inflation factored in, and what you've saved, how that can make your dreams and your goals and your spending realistic. And if it can't, I'm not the one who's going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm the one who's going to tell you what is. I'm going to show you what is so that you can understand that and you can make adjustments if you need to, whether it's working longer, whether it's spending more. Sometimes people think they can't spend, and they can. But it's all crystal clear through the Retire Fit analysis. If you don't have a plan that says, here's my income now, here's my income 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, factored for inflation, after taxes, whether the market's up, down, or sideways, you don't have a retirement plan. And I welcome you to give us a call to get started with this process. And this is ideally suited for those of you who've saved at least $250,000 or more for retirement. Let's understand what you want your money to do, what it's doing now, and what it needs to be doing. 623-792-5496. Again, 623-792-5496. Remember, this is a process that we take people through, no obligation, complimentary. I don't know if I can help you, and I don't know if you want our help, but we'll certainly find that. And my whole idea, whether we end up working together or not, is that you always end up with more information, better off than when you started. And we always part friends, however it ends. 623-792-5496.
This is Retire Financially Fit with Phyllis. We'll be back after this. Thanks for joining us today. This is Retire Financially Fit with Phyllis. I am Jen Rezac, happy to be here with Phyllis Sachs-Pilvinus. She is founder and president of PSP and Associates and author of the book Creating Calm Amidst the Storm. As we get back into it, if you hear something you'd like to get some answers on, 623-792-5496 is the number. One more time, that's 623-792-5496. Phyllis, talking today about how retirements can last a few decades, and so we have to plan for a long time in retirement. And I do want to talk a little bit about when we need to be thinking about long-term care and health care, but as I think about the amount of time that we could be retired, you're a runner. You've done a lot of marathons in your days. I run not as much of a distance as you have, but I am a runner. My girls are runners. And I just think there are a lot of parallels there when we think about preparing for retirement. We are not preparing for the 100-meter dash, right? This is a distance race, and you do not start a marathon like you're running a 100-meter dash, right? I mean, you have to have a different approach here, and we need to be thinking like that with our retirement and our preparations for retirement, right?
Slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah,
I used to have to remind myself, okay, slow and steady wins the race. Yep, you don't hit the wall.
Right.
That's the same thing about retirement. Yeah, you've got to factor in everything, plan for ahead of when it's actually going to happen. It's hard to conceptualize when you're retiring and you're healthy and you feel good, or 10 years before, that at some point in time you may need some health care.
Right.
You may have some issues. Yeah.
Right. And there are obstacles that you can't see. You want to make sure that you don't run out of gas somewhere along the way, because you've got to be able to cross the finish line when you're running a longer distance race. And the thing is, when I think about you and the number of races that you've run, I've only done a few. My girls running cross country. We get to do this over and over again. We can learn some lessons and say, man, I didn't pace myself quite right, and here's what I know about the next time I'm going to do this. We don't really get that with retirement. So that's the other thing that I think is important to point out. You're going on this big, long journey, this big race, but you only get to run it once.
That's why I scream it from the rooftops. It is entirely different than what you've done up to this point. The accumulation phase is about growing, saving, growing your money as much as you possibly can, money that you won't need for the short term, in the short term, because you have a paycheck. When the paycheck goes away and what you have is finite, you've got to make sure that you understand the things you could be faced with and have a plan to handle each and every one of them. That's why all the pieces of the retirement puzzle all interact with each other and are so, so important. That's 100% right.
Right. So when we think about some of those challenges, some of those obstacles that could come our way with retirement, it's things like healthcare. It's things like long-term care. We don't want to be in a situation where we spend all of our money on the fun stuff and then we're trying to figure out how to pay medical bills later on. How do you tackle that with people who are just starting to plan?
So first of all, let me say this. For those who swept it under the carpet, or they just never thought it was going to happen to them, or their family didn't quite live quite as long, or they thought they'd have enough money, gosh, it's sad when it happens. Gosh, it's sad. And you know what? Think of it, it's especially sad for your loved ones when you cannot afford to give that person you love dignity because you didn't plan for it.
Right.
And I will tell you that, and I've seen it far too more often than I care to admit. It's usually, it's not with my clients because we build plans, and how do we address that? Well, first of all, it's education. And I always start out with, every year, every couple of years, Fidelity does a study, and they look at what it will cost someone 65 years old who's going to live approximately 20 years in retirement, just for the normal healthcare costs. And you know what? This is kind of crazy. But just for things like pharmaceuticals, your drugs and your Medicare supplement and copays, you can expect to spend $285,000 in today's dollars for healthcare. But that has nothing to do with what really can be financially devastating. And that's the cost if you need custodial care. That's ridiculously out of hand.
Right.
So we believe that through our Retire Fit analysis, everybody has their own set of circumstances, their own financial DNA, but we always want to address that on the front end. And today there are different strategies that, quite frankly, are probably a lot better than long-term care insurance, where you're paying for something you may never use, and you're paying for something where when you're most likely to use it, the premium goes through the roof. There are insurance products, there are things you can do with the equity in your home, but this is very important to think of it on the front end. Because imagine not thinking about it, being in your 80s and losing your health and not having the money to help you or yourself or your loved ones. So very, very important we actually have software that we can play the what if game. What if you're this age and that happens to you? What happens to your money? And then, there's no one size fits all approach to what's going to feel comfortable to you, but our job is to educate you about the different ways in your particular circumstance that you can get leverage on your money to provide, the money needed if you need custodial care. And we model those different things in as we go through our Retire Fit analysis. And it all starts with finding out what are the things you're going to be faced with that you haven't thought of before, what you want retirement to look like, what's going on with your money, where are there any kinks in the system, if you will. And then figuring out if those are important to you to look for solutions. We'll lay it out in bite-sized pieces, so that you have a comprehensive, well put together plan at the end of the day, or at least you'll know what you're facing. And the way to get started with that is let's walk through our Retire Fit analysis. Let's figure out what you want retirement to look like and what's going on with your money, and are there any gaps, and do you want to look for solutions? Way to get started: if you've done the heavy lifting, saved at least $250,000 or more for retirement, pick up the phone and call us for the Retire Fit analysis at 623-792-5496. Again, 623-792-5496.
Phillis Sachs-Pilvinus is founder and president of PSP and Associates. I'm Jen Rezac alongside, talking today about how we plan for such a long time in retirement. And Phillis, the other difference is I've done a couple of comparisons to running a race, a distance race. you might not be able to actually see the finish line when you start a race, when you start a 5K or a marathon even. You can't actually see it, but you know where it is. And you can plan for where it is. You might not see it, but you know what the distance is that you have to go to get to it. And most of the time you also have a course map, so you can look and visualize ahead of time. That's the other big challenge with retirement. We don't know at all where that finish line is. And so we have to get out there and do our best, but we don't know exactly how long we're going to be out there in retirement. I mean, how do you factor in that big unknown of our life expectancy? Because people are living a really long time today. We could end up being retired for a really long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way to do that, I hate to say living a long time is planning for the worst, but hoping for the best.
Right.
But we have to look at, all different scenarios. And that's why this is a niche. Working with people who are transitioning into retirement, getting them to and through retirement successfully is a different way of planning than it is the accumulation phase. And, way back when my mom became a widow at 59 years old, I realized this was really underserved. People don't know what they're going to be faced with, and they don't know how to really prepare for what they don't know. So my job, what we take pride in doing, is really, showing you all the things you could be faced with and how it will impact your money, your lifestyle, your life, the inheritance you want to leave, your surviving spouse. All of that. We model it in. I call it playing the what if game. And sometimes killing off a spouse or doing things, modeling that in. We make a joke of it. It's not funny, but it could happen. So when you can see it in front of you and you can visualize it as best, like when I used to run a marathon and I used to visualize the end, it's easier to plan for it. It's easier to get over the finish line. And that's what we do every day. And I encourage you, if you haven't thought, if you're not sure, all the things you could be faced with and you're not sure that you absolutely have a plan for it, pick up the phone and call us at 623-792-5496. 623-792-5496. That's what we'll do for you with the Retire Fit Analysis. We'll walk you through all of these different scenarios so you can make sure, I want to help you build a boring retirement plan so you can have an exciting retirement. And by planning for all of that, that's what you're able to accomplish.
Yeah, and I just have to say it one more time because I love the way you put that. Build a boring plan so you can have an exciting retirement, because when things get exciting with your money, that means we've got some ups and downs and we're guessing and we're hoping, and that's all fine and good. But gosh, it's a lot better to have that financial situation be boring, reliable, steady, nothing super exciting happening, because that's where we have a little bit more certainty when it's a little bit more boring.
Yeah.
Right.
I will say this, don't get me wrong. There are some exciting pieces to it.
Yes.
But first we take care of the basics. So we take care of the basics, and that's so that it's reliable, because boy, lots happens.
Yeah.
Lots happens. Yes. And the blending of everything gives you a little bit of each.
Exactly. So
absolutely.
Let me give that phone number one more time as we head to break. 623-792-5496 to reach Phillis Sachs-Pilvinus and the team at PSP and Associates. And the website is retirewithpsp.com. This is Retire Financially Fit with Phillis. We'll be back after this.
Why choose PSP and Associates to handle your retirement? Because we provide objective advice and concierge service. Investments, insurance, retirement planning, all at one location. We also partner with qualified attorneys and CPAs to provide complete financial strategies for our clients. We use a variety of investment and insurance products to custom design retirement plans that can give clients a clear look at their future. And we help you stay on the path toward financial independence. If you don't want to do it yourself, you want to work with a team to create a financial strategy for your future, Give us a call, 623-792-5496. That's 623-792-5496. Would you rather get retirement advice from some TV show host who doesn't know anything about you, or PSP and Associates? 623-792-5496. PSP is a registered investment advisory firm. Phillis Sachs Pildinas is an investment advisor representative and insurance professional. Investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal.
Phyllis, thanks for joining us today. This is Retire Financially Fit with Phyllis. 1975, the year Jaws hit theaters, becoming a summer blockbuster, and of course, giving us that very famous phrase.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
It's one of the best scenes. Phyllis, you remember seeing that movie when it first came out?
Oh my goodness, I do. But I also remember seeing it. I was living on the Cape after my first year of college, when we watched it again.
Yeah.
And I used to go swimming at night all the time.
No.
On the beach. Not after that.
No.
Not for at least a couple weeks.
No, you never wanted to go in the water again. Wasn't safe to go in the water again, right? Wasn't that the line?
Crazy. That was crazy.
Oh, man. And one of those movies, too, like just playing that theme music, I mean, it just sends chills down your spine. And one of those movies that without the score wouldn't have even been something you remembered, probably. I mean, that music is just what made it, right?
Exactly. That helped.
Love it. Yeah, love it so much. Because we actually, my first time seeing it, it was obviously many years after it had originally come out. But we did see it in like a drive-in theater type of setting and being outside and just, it was just a lot of fun to see that movie.
I remember it so well. Both times I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it was just as scary.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. But again, because of, just that intensity in the music and just you can't help but feeling a little bit frantic when you're watching it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well done. Yeah.
So well done. So what we're not going to do as we continue our discussion today of retirement and we talk about the risks lurking in the retirement waters, we're not going to keep playing that music because we'll all just be riled up.
That's right. That's right. Well, if people don't have a plan, maybe I should play it.
Oh, there you go.
Because they need a plan.
Do that as they're sitting in your conference room. Exactly. You'd have some people a little bit freaked out here. But yeah, Phyllis, we go through all this about Jaws because we're going to be talking about the common financial risks in retirement. That is our top 5 list for this week. And number 5 on the list, healthcare. A major cause of unexpected bills in retirement is medical expenses. According to Fidelity, the average 65-year-old couple can expect to pay $285,000 on healthcare costs in retirement. That does not include long-term care. So again, I'm starting to feel that music creeping up here in the back of my head here. How do we factor in these healthcare costs that are lurking in our retirement?
Yeah, we really do need the music for this one.
I know.
Because this is nobody wants to think about this. And so many people believe, well, my insurance or my Medicare supplement's going to cover that. When it comes to custodial care or all what Fidelity's talking about, copays and things like that, they add up. Custodial care can really take down somebody if they don't have a plan for that. Now, having said that, here's where we can have the happy music.
Yes.
If you have a good plan, you can create leverage. That every family is going to be different, how they're going to do that. But there's lots of tools today, other than just long-term care insurance where you pay these premiums and if you don't use it, you lose it. There are other things that you can do that will give you leverage on your own money. So if it's going to cost you for $1 that you put in, you might create $2 or $3, depending upon the way that you do that. And so for our families, We make them aware that this is an issue that really can unravel everything you've worked your entire life for if you ignore it. But we walk them through all the different ways that they can prevent this problem, that they can create leverage. And also very often, the tools that we're going to use or the combination of tools are going to be different for people. Sometimes it's insurance products, whether it be life insurance, whether it be annuities with the special health care rider. Because back in 2006, under the Pension Protection Act, the government came out and said that we're going to give these insurance products the ability to provide leverage for healthcare, for lack of a better way to do it. And much as we love to hate these products, they have some virtue if you really just look at the pros and cons and strings attached. Sometimes maybe you opt to downsize your house and put away that money or do a reverse mortgage. There's different options, different strokes for different folks. But the idea is you don't have a plan unless you have some well laid out strategy that you would utilize if you have a catastrophic illness ahead of time. Proactive versus reactive. This is real, and I've seen it far too often. Later on in life, needing custodial care, sometimes sooner than you'd ever plan.
Right. It is definitely a huge concern as we talk about the major risks lurking in our retirement. Talking with Phillis Sachs-Pilvinus. She's with PSP & Associates, 623-792-5496. Want to give that number as we continue talking about the main risks to our retirement income. That's 623-792-5496. And Phillis, while I shared those numbers about healthcare costs from Fidelity, those have gotten bigger just in the number of years that you and I have been doing this show. It keeps going up because of inflation. The cost of everything is going up. And here's where I go back to that quote, gonna need a bigger boat in retirement.
Oh, yeah.
The costs keep going up. How do we deal with inflation 20 or 30 years from now?
Yeah, inflation, it never sleeps. If I've said that once, I've said it 1,000 times, maybe more, because it's true. Right now, interest rates are low, inflation costs are low if you listen to, the government, but really, are they low? Healthcare costs, I know that custodial care costs across the country went up at a rate of inflation of 4.5% last year.
Wow.
And even 2 to 3%, 20, 30 years down the road, which is length. Retirement can last people 20, 30, 40 years down the road, depending upon when they retire. Things are going to double, and you have to have income that doubles. While you're working, you get raises, right? But in retirement, unless you plan for those raises and you have a strategy that builds that in, you're not going to keep up with inflation. So I know, for example, a lot of people are thinking, oh my goodness, the market's volatile. I don't want any risk. And you put it in the bank in this low interest rate environment, and Powell says it's going to stay low for a while. You can't keep up with inflation by having all your money there. You've got to have a plan that addresses raises for your cash flow. Otherwise, you could very well outlive your money.
Right. And that is such a huge concern. Another one is interest rates. And we've talked about this before as well. Interest rates have been in a long-term decline. This has been happening for a long time. They're not expected to go up anytime soon. Talk a little bit about the challenge of low interest rates, because it's a good thing for people who are borrowing money. If you're spending and borrowing, it's not really a good thing for people trying to save, right?
Yeah, we call it the war against the retirement, the retirement population. It really is a war that's been waged. Back in the good old days, geez, you could go to the banks and have safe money and earn a nice little rate of return on your laddered CDs, maybe 5, 4, 5, 6, 7%. I remember my grandmother back in the 80s, I've said it before, going from bank to bank. I swear that was her job. She was all of under 5 feet tall. Right? I could see her driving up my driveway in the car. You could barely see her over the steering wheel. She'd get out of the car and she had gone to the bank to negotiate her 16% CD and came out with a toaster or a toaster oven.
16%.
Those good old days, they don't exist anymore.
No. Yeah. Oh, it's wild.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. I have that vision in my head. But those, for her, those were the days safely. She didn't have to worry. She made good money and she could negotiate between banks. Today, if your money is in a money market, in a CD, yeah, it's not going to go down because of the market, but it's going to erode because of inflation. And really, interest rates are going to rise in the future, but not for a while, not with everything else that we have going on. And people who are perhaps smarter than me, if you can believe that, are saying that. Right. So, yeah, that's a really important risk. And the way that you negotiate it is using different asset classes to accomplish having an inflation adjusted plan.
The number to call to reach Phillis Sachs-Pilvinus. She is founder and president of PSP and Associates. 623-792-5496. Again, that number is 623-792-5496. Working our way through some of the most common risks lurking in the waters of retirement. And the most common, the biggest one of all, Phyllis, is running out of money. That's such a huge concern for so many people because there are so many other challenges. How do you help people feel more confident that they're going to have the money they need as long as they need it in retirement?
Yeah, even if you don't think that you should be concerned about it, you probably should. And the way that we help people is make sure that they have a solid inflation-adjusted income plan, that they have the right appropriate risk for them and what their concerns are, that we have a tax efficient strategy, that we have a strategy to leverage their money if they need it for healthcare, and that we have the right financial documents, estate planning documents in place if they need those to take care of themselves while they're still alive, someone to make healthcare decisions or financial decisions. Putting it all together is how we develop a plan that makes sure that you're not going to outlive your money. You miss one of those steps, perhaps you're going to give up some money unnecessarily. So let's be proactive, not reactive. Let's start with the Retire Fit analysis. Call us 623-792-5496.
You've been listening to Retire Financially Fit with Phyllis. Remember that number, 623-792-5496. Be sure to tune in again next week for more insights from Phyllis. I'm Jen Rezac. We're glad you spent some time with us here today. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next time. Investment advisory services are offered through PSP Financial Services, LLC, an Arizona registered investment advisor. PSP Financial Services is an independent financial services firm that helps people create retirement strategies using a variety of insurance and investment products. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to safety, security, or guaranteed lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investment products. Insurance and annuity product guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. PSP Financial Services, LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. You should talk to a qualified professional before making any decisions about your personal situation. We are not affiliated with the U.S. government or any governmental agency. This radio show is a paid placement.